This is going to be a bit different from my usual videos, so first, a brief explanation before we get into the list. Conspiracy icebergs, or iceberg charts, have been around the internet for years, usually consisting of a large list of theories over an image of an iceberg, with the more common ones at the top and the most obscure at the bottom. Despite being called conspiracy icebergs, the lists contain a wide variety of subjects, perhaps better described as Neo-Forteana. Forteana describes the work of Charles Fort, a writer who collected reportedly true stories about the paranormal, the supernatural, the occult, cryptozoology, and other unexplained phenomena. Neo-Forteana expands on this with the inclusion of subjects in which people interested in Fortean phenomena are also often interested in, such as conspiracy theories, true crime, especially unsolved crime, or solved crimes with alternative theories, as well as urban legends, strange subcultures, and even unusual theories relating to pop culture. In this video, I'm going to go over 100 terms which I found on various icebergs, focusing on the most interesting and/or the ones that people inquire about the most. Since the top of iceberg charts usually contain extremely common terms, like aliens or Bigfoot, I won't bother with those as most everyone is already aware of them. Longtime viewers of my channel know that in my videos I usually go into a lot of detail. In this video, I'll be giving brief rundowns only. For some of these terms, a brief rundown is really all that's needed to explain it. For others, there could be much more to tell. I may do some more detailed videos on some of those in the future, and in some cases I already have, in which case I will mention the video title when describing that term. One other thing to mention before we get into the list. Many iceberg images contain fake entries, either intended as jokes or memes. I didn't bother describing any of these, save for two examples which I felt deserved a mention. With that, let's get into the list. 1800s Internet, also called Victorian Internet, refers to telegraph communications being similar in many ways to the early Internet. People chatting in text over long distances, sharing news and jokes, and as well, many emoticons were originally used in telegraph communication. After telephones became popular, this form of text-based communication largely became obsolete until the rise of the World Wide Web in the 1990s. 18.5-minute gap. In audio recordings of conversations and phone calls made by U.S. President Richard Nixon, which were later used as evidence against him during the infamous Watergate trial, there is a missing 18.5 minutes on one tape, recorded 3 days after the Watergate break-in. Variously claimed to have been accidentally erased by a secretary, to being accidentally erased by Nixon himself, to being intentionally erased in order to destroy evidence. 1962 Pensacola Incident. 5 teenagers were skin diving from a boat in the ocean near Pensacola, Florida, when a thick fog developed and the teens had trouble locating their boat. 4 were never found and presumed drowned. The sole survivor reported that the other 4 teens were pulled under the water by a long-necked sea serpent. Theories range from an actual sea serpent to a giant squid to survivor's guilt combined with a traumatic experience. 1981 Dream Virus refers to a rare genetic disorder among Hmong people of Southeast Asia which will cause otherwise healthy young people, usually males, to die in their sleep. In folklore, it is said that the men are killed by their nightmares or by demons. 1981 in this case apparently refers to the year that this condition was first observed in the West, when several Thai immigrants died of the condition in the United States. These events inspired the 1980s movie franchise A Nightmare on Elm Street, about a deceased serial killer who is able to enter the dreams of his victims. 2006 Volleyball Incident. Claim that first surfaced on 4chan. Many people claim that they remember a mass shooting at a volleyball tournament in 2006, but are unable to locate any news reports about it. Sometimes tied into the Mandela effect, the implication being that those who remember it are originally from a universe where it did in fact occur. 4chan alien photo. Supposed real photo of a reptilian alien standing in the desert posted to the website 4chan in 2017. After the image was posted, the thread was deleted from the site and archives within minutes. The entire website went down, and when it came back up, people started posting obviously fake images of the alien, claiming that it was the original photo. Several people who had downloaded the original image claimed it was now corrupted and couldn't be opened. Later claimed to be an organized prank done to coincide with a time when the website would be down for maintenance. Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. Claim that counterculture comedian Bill Hicks faked his death in 1994 and reinvented himself as conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Beyond the physical resemblance between the two men, there are a number of factors that believers claim prove this theory. Both were from the same area of Texas. Jones looks older than his stated age, and Jones started his first public access TV show a few months after Hicks's death. Amazon forest was built. The natural soil in the Amazon rainforest is unsuitable for agriculture. However, large amounts of an apparently man-made soil, incredibly rich in nutrients, have been found there. There are stories of cities in the area that is now the Amazon prior to the Spanish and Portuguese conquests of the area. Essentially, the theory is that these cities were wiped out, and the Amazon rainforest is essentially a giant overgrown garden. Antarctic bloodfalls. Phenomena where the presence of dissolved minerals can sometimes make Antarctic ice walls appear to be leaking blood. Basement tapes. Refers to video recordings made by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold prior to their shooting rampage at Columbine High School. While some portions of the tapes have since been released to the public, other portions of the tapes remain classified, and according to some sources, they have since been destroyed. Bin Laden died early 2000s. Essentially self-explanatory. Theory that Osama bin Laden had been dead for years by the time of his execution by US Special Forces in 2011, which was faked for propaganda purposes. The main point of proof used in this theory is that bin Laden was reportedly buried at sea after his death, and no photographic or video proof of his death have ever been released. As well, there were frequent reports in the early 2000s that bin Laden was in ill health with kidney problems, with some reports stating that he needed dialysis treatments in order to live, leading some to question how he could have survived on the run for so long. Bogdanoffs. French twin brothers who are television producers, scientific essayists, and plastic surgery enthusiasts. Likely due to their strange appearances, there are many conspiracies about them, including that they secretly run the world. However, these theories are generally tongue-in-cheek. Bohemian Grove. Campground for elites and politicians in the USA. Famously infiltrated by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who videotaped a mock human sacrifice known as the cremation of care at the foot of a giant owl statue. Boy in the box. Famous unidentified murder victim from the United States. The boy, who was between 4 and 6 years old, was found nude and beaten in a cardboard box in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on February 25, 1957. His photograph was included with gas bills in Philadelphia in an attempt to identify him, and several theories have been proposed over the years, but as of the time of this video, he remains unidentified. Breatharianism. Claim that human beings are able to survive without eating, and in some cases, without drinking water, as long as they receive adequate amounts of sunshine. Brown note. Supposedly a specific tone or frequency that when heard will cause a human to defecate. Widely regarded as an urban legend. Bundy shapeshifting. Refers to the fact that serial killer Ted Bundy was able to look radically different just by changing his hairstyle. Sometimes considered evidence that Ted Bundy was in reality a character portrayed by several different people. Catcher in the Rye incest subplot. Essentially a belief by some that the famous novel Catcher in the Rye contains various hints that the main character Holden Caulfield is sexually attracted to his younger sister. Clown sightings. In the 2010s, there were numerous reports, mostly from the United States, of people dressed as clowns acting menacingly, scaring, and sometimes chasing people at night. Suspected to be a case of an original prankster, and then many copycats, after the original prank received media coverage. Columbine third shooter. At least 30 witnesses at Columbine High School reported seeing a third shooter during the rampage, and many identified him by name. Less commonly, but still reported by multiple witnesses, were a fourth and a fifth shooter. Officially, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were the only perpetrators. Count Saint Germain, mysterious alchemist from 18th century Europe, rumored to have discovered the secret to eternal life, reportedly looked no older than 45 upon his death at age 93. Some believe his death was faked and he continued to live on, with claimed sightings of him as late as the 1930s. Dancing plagues. There are several reported incidents in medieval Europe of groups of people being compelled to dance, seemingly unable to stop until they either collapsed from exhaustion or in some cases died. Generally considered to be examples of mass hysteria, although the exact cause of the phenomena is still debated to this day. Denver Airport. Airport in Denver, Colorado, that contains many bizarre murals with apocalyptic themes. Various stories about the airport have appeared online over the years, including that it contains an entrance to a deep underground military base, or that it is used for child trafficking. Disney Frozen refers to two things. One, the long-standing urban legend that Walt Disney was cryonically preserved after his death, and two, that Disney titled their 2013 film Frozen so that if you Googled Disney Frozen, the first results would be about the movie and not the legend. DMT elves. DMT, a naturally occurring substance found in many plants, can be extracted and used as a hallucinogen. Oddly, many people from around the world, from a wide variety of cultures and belief systems, report seeing the same small, elf-like beings while under its influence. Dog suicide bridges. Overton Bridge is a stone bridge in Scotland. Dogs have a tendency to fall or sometimes even leap from the bridge, falling to their deaths 50 feet below. Some believe the bridge is haunted, as in 1994, a man threw his infant son off the bridge as he believed that the child was the devil. However, there are other bridges in various parts of the world that report the same phenomena of apparent dog suicides, which don't have Overton Bridge's grisly history. Although there are numerous theories, the phenomena remains unexplained. Dolphin intelligence. Generally already considered to be one of the most intelligent non-human animals, some believe that dolphins possess even greater levels of intelligence than generally believed. This is not a new theory. In ancient Greece, dolphins were considered sentient beings, and killing one was considered an act of murder. Driver killed JFK. Theory that the fatal shot in the JFK assassination was fired by Secret Service agent William Greer, who was driving the president's car at the time of the assassination. Dulce Base. Rumored deep underground military base. A story online popular among conspiracy theorists and claimed to be true is written by a man who claimed to have worked there and claims that the base is jointly staffed by humans and reptilians and contains an area nicknamed Nightmare Hall where humans are used in experiments. DUMBs, or DUMBs, stands for Deep Underground Military Base, for example, Dull Space. Elsagate, term used to refer to a large subculture of people making bizarre and sometimes sexualized videos on YouTube. While no sex or nudity is featured, pregnancy and urination are common themes, as are violent acts, like stabbing with needles, can be animated or performed by real people. Called Elsagate, as these videos typically feature characters from children's media, with Princess Elsa from the movie Frozen being one of the most common. Theories about the video's purpose ranges from child grooming to MK Ultra type experiments, although after the videos started receiving negative publicity, some creators came forward to claim that they were simply exploiting YouTube algorithms and common search terms in order to make money. Elvis. Some believe that musician Elvis Presley faked his own death after growing tired of his fame. Sightings of Elvis have been reported many times over the years, including a rash of sightings in Kalamazoo, Michigan in the 1980s. Empty Internet. Concept relating to how the internet has changed from the 90s and early 2000s to present day. Main points are a massive increase in bots, the homogenization and centralization of online content, and a change from a vast landscape of smaller communities dedicated to a large variety of subjects and hobbies, now primarily replaced with easily controlled discussion on large platforms like Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook. Entombed animal. Various claims have been made throughout the years of people breaking open solid rocks to find animals, usually frogs or toads, entombed within, which are still alive and suffering from no apparent ill effect. Fan death. South Korean belief that sleeping in a room with a running fan while the door and windows are closed can lead to death due to the fan sucking the air out of the room. Despite having no logical basis, this belief is still held by many Koreans, and fans in Korea are sold with warnings not to run them in enclosed rooms. A theory about the cause of this belief is that coroners will sometimes list a suicide victim as having died from fan death in order to avoid shaming the family. Finders. The Finders were an obscure spiritual sect founded in the 1960s. In February of 1987, police in Tallahassee, Florida, found several dirty and malnourished children in the company of two well-dressed adult men in a local park. The men claimed they were taking the children to a school for gifted children in Mexico. At some point, the men refused to answer any more questions and were taken into custody, where it was determined they were members of the Finders. The children who had been in their care were not only dirty and hungry, but were unfamiliar with many aspects of modern life, such as electricity, telephones, and running water. Several weeks later, police in Washington, D.C. executed a search warrant on a commercial building in that city, which was owned by the Finders. During the search, officers recovered hundreds of photographs of children, some of them nude, and photos which seemed to depict rituals and animal sacrifices. The building contained an altar, jars of urine and feces, and video production equipment. There was also a computer room in which many documents were seized, including files on terrorism, explosives, and avoiding law enforcement detection. There were passports for Russia, North Korea, and Vietnam, and documents relating to the activities of the group in different parts of the world. Perhaps most disturbing of all was a document ordering the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged through the Chinese embassy there. Shortly after this, the investigation into the finders was taken over by the CIA, and all police investigations ceased. No further details about the investigation were made public, with the CIA spokesperson describing the incident as a nothing burger in 1993. In 2019, the FBI declassified thousands of pages of documents related to their investigation into the finders, many pages of which would seem to indicate that well-meaning agents were being stonewalled in their investigation by the CIA. Fluoride refers to the controversial practice of adding fluoride to drinking water to prevent tooth decay, largely only practiced in certain North American cities. Some claim that water fluoridation is used to keep the public docile, and claim that fluoridation was used for this purpose by Nazis and/or communists. Others point to evidence that fluoride calcifies on the pineal gland and is used to hamper spiritualism. Forest stairs claim that first became popular from a story on the website Reddit, where a poster who claimed to have worked in a national park claimed that he was told by co-workers to never climb any staircases that he may come across in the forest. Since then, other stories about forest stairs have appeared online, sometimes accompanied by real photos of stairs in the middle of the woods. The stairs are often implied to be gateways to other dimensions and the cause of people disappearing in the woods. French pterodactyl. Old story that in the 19th century, workers digging a tunnel in France cracked open a huge boulder to reveal a pterodactyl inside. Supposedly it moved and tried to breathe before dying in front of them. Can be considered an extreme example of an entombed animal. Gang stalking. The belief of some people that they are being followed and harassed by organized groups of people, with the stalking allegedly done in a covert way so as to allow for plausible deniability for the perpetrators. For example, people will report groups of people making purposeful eye contact or strange gestures at them while in public. While there are rare cases of organized stalking which have been proven, many believe that most gang stalking victims are suffering from undiagnosed mental illness. People who believe they are being gang stalked frequently share information about who they believe is behind gang stalking. Theories range from government experiments to psychopaths to non-governmental organizations comprised of far-right or far-left individuals. Broward County, Florida, El Paso, Texas, and the countries of South Africa and Germany are frequently mentioned as being gang-stalking hotspots. Great Moon Hoax. A series of newspaper reports from the 1800s reporting the discovery of a civilization on the moon. Widely regarded as a hoax, although some believe the discovery was real and then covered up. Green children. In a reportedly true incident in medieval England, 2 children with green skin showed up in the town of Woolpit one day. They claimed they had come from a land where the sun was dim and spoke with strange accents. God's second son. James the Just is recorded in some sources as a brother of Jesus, although it is unclear if he was a cousin of Jesus or Joseph's son from a previous relationship. Some obscure Christian sects reportedly believe that he was the true Messiah. Heaven's Gate. UFO cult founded in the 1970s. Committed mass suicide in March of 1997 as they believed that the comet Hale-Bopp, which was passing close by Earth at the time, was followed by a spaceship, and if they committed suicide, their souls would be able to board the ship and become perfect beings. Thomas Nichols, the brother of actress Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura on the original Star Trek series, was one of their members. The group's website remains online, maintained by one member who chose to stay behind. Henry McCabe. Liberian immigrant to the United States who vanished in 2015 after a night out with friends. The night he disappeared, he left a panicked voicemail to his wife. In the 2-minute voicemail, he states that he has been shot, and then bizarre wails and animalistic growls can be heard for the remainder of the message. Henry can be heard speaking at the same time as some of the noises, indicating that he was not the one making them. His body was located in a lake 2 months later. He had died due to drowning and had not been shot. Highway trolls. A series of bizarre sightings reported mostly by truckers in the United States of large, hairy, humanoid figures standing beside highways late at night, usually described as looking almost but not quite human, and wearing dirty and torn clothes. Hindu milk miracle. In September 1995, there were multiple reports from India of statues of the Hindu god Ganesha drinking milk from offered spoons, sometimes including video evidence purporting to show the miracle in action. Hollow Earth can refer to two concepts. One, that the Earth is hollow, and sometimes said to be home to civilizations which would avoid contact with surface dwellers, or two, that we live inside a hollow Earth, with everything we observe in the universe being on the inside of this giant planet. Iraqi giant. In the early 2000s, a caller to the Coast to Coast AM radio show claimed to have been a soldier in Iraq. He claimed that during the war, a group of American soldiers encountered a giant in a cave who killed some of them before being killed itself, and the incident was kept under wraps. Japanese blood types refers to a belief held by some Japanese people that a person's blood type dictates certain aspects of their personality, similar to astrology. J.K. Rowling, an actor. Theory first put forth by a writer that the Harry Potter series is too commercially polished to have been written by one person, and that the author J.K. Rowling is an actor pretending to be the author of the books, which were actually written by a group of people. Johnny Gosh. Extremely deep and disturbing rabbit hole. Johnny Gosh was a 12-year-old paperboy from West Des Moines, Iowa, who disappeared on the morning of September 5, 1982. In 1989, 21-year-old Paul Bonacci from Omaha, Nebraska, told his lawyer John DeCamp that he had been in a sex ring with Johnny Gosh. Bonacci accused Lawrence E. King, the director of the Franklin Credit Union in Omaha, of running an underage prostitution ring. According to Johnny's mother, Noreen Gosh, Bonacci accurately described several scars on Johnny that had not been public knowledge. Noreen also claims that in 1997, she was visited at home by a then 27-year-old Johnny. He was with another man and would look at this person for approval to speak. Johnny told her that he had been abducted into a sex ring by powerful people and had eventually managed to escape. However, he could never go public with his story, or else he would be killed. Kubrick killed for Eyes Wide Shut. Eyes Wide Shut is a 1999 film about a young family in high social standing being inducted into a cult-like society of powerful people. The film contains a lot of symbolism and political connotations and depictions of swinging and incest. Director Stanley Kubrick died suddenly during the editing process, and it is widely rumored that over 30 minutes of material never made it into the final film. The theory is that Kubrick was essentially exposing the type of thing that really goes on in circles of powerful people, and was killed because of it. Having already sunk a lot of money into the film, the studio released a heavily edited version of Kubrick's original vision, leaving out things that they most wanted to remain hidden. L'Enfant, one of the very few completely provable examples of gang stalking. Restaurant owner Bashir Khashoggi received thousands of threatening phone calls between the mid-1980s and early 1990s. The FBI traced the calls to multiple payphones, but were never able to apprehend the culprits. The most frequent caller spoke with a French accent and sounded like a child, and was nicknamed L'Enfant. I covered this story in more detail in my video, 3 Extreme Cases of Phone Harassment. Lake City Quiet Pills. This is a deep and interesting rabbit hole to go down. Lake City Quiet Pills was the name of a website which re-hosted pornographic and softcore images that were originally uploaded to Reddit. Eventually, someone discovered that there seemed to be coded messages hidden in the HTML code of the website. These messages would change over time. In 2010, Mahmoud al-Mabouh, chief of logistics for Hamas, was assassinated in a Dubai hotel room, widely regarded as being done by agents of the Israeli Secret Service Mossad. A few days prior to the assassination, the HTML code of the Lake City Quiet Pills website had been altered to contain a message that many believe is coded instructions related to the assassination. Though never proven, it's suspected that the website was being used as a form of spy communication. Lost cosmonauts. Theory that the Soviet Union had attempted to put humans into space before their first official and successful attempt, which were covered up as they were failures which resulted in the deaths of the participants. Love roller coaster scream. An urban legend about the 1975 song Love Roller Coaster by the Ohio Players. At one point in the song, you can hear a woman scream. There are 3 versions of the legend. 2 involve the cover photograph for the album, showing a woman pouring honey over herself. It is claimed that either the honey was heated to make it pour better, resulting in the model being burned, or that the honey reacted with the plastic the woman was kneeling on, causing skin on her knees to bond to the plastic and tear when she stood up. In both cases, her scream of pain was used in the song. The third version is that it was the scream of a woman being murdered outside of the studio where the song was being recorded, and the band liked how it sounded and left it in. Luna Park Train Fire Demon. On 9th of June 1979, an indoor train ride at the Luna Park amusement park in Sydney, Australia caught fire, killing 7 people. The exact cause of the fire has never been officially determined, although arson is heavily suspected. During the course of the investigation, authorities located this photograph, taken shortly before the fire, and showing a child who died in the fire, posing with a man wearing a horned mask. The man in the mask has never been located. Some believe that the fire was a satanic or pagan sacrifice, and that this man was responsible. Mandela effect. Term used to describe the unusual phenomena of many people remembering something differently than how it actually occurred. The name comes from South African President Nelson Mandela, whom many people remember dying in prison in the 1990s. A theory about the Mandela effect ties into the theory that there are multiple universes, and that when you die in one universe, your consciousness jumps to a similar universe. The implication being that people who remember Mandela's death in the 90s are originally from a universe where it in fact occurred. McMartin Tunnels. Children at the infamous McMartin preschool in Manhattan Beach, California, claimed that they were transported through secret tunnels underneath the school to the garage of an apartment building next door, where they were loaded into cars and driven to various locations to be sexually abused. Considered an example of the satanic ritual abuse hysteria of the 1980s, the lengthy trial ended with the acquittal of all of the accused. Incredibly, FBI documents declassified in 2019 reveal that the tunnels did in fact exist. Medieval found footage. I'm including this because it is one of the most popular Iceberg entries, and one that people most often inquire about. Essentially, the story is that a time traveler was able to travel back in time to some point in the Middle Ages and record video footage. In some cases, the footage was said to be available online at one point, but has since been scrubbed. In another variation of this entry, it is sometimes said that footage was found showing a medieval village taken with apparently lost ancient camera technology. In some cases, photographs alleged to be screen captures from the video were shown, which turned out to be stills from a silent film shot in the 1920s. As far as I can tell, medieval found footage was never a real conspiracy, and was added to icebergs at some point as a joke. Mel's Hole. Beginning in 1997, a man who called himself Mel Waters began calling into the Coast to Coast AM radio show to tell a series of bizarre, supposedly true stories about a mysterious hole he found on property he once owned near Ellensburg, Washington. He said he had attempted to measure the depth of the hole using a fishing line and weight, and had determined it was at least 80,000 feet deep. He claimed that a neighbor had disposed of a dead dog by throwing it into the hole, and the dog was later seen alive and wandering around the property. He claimed that shortly after this incident, the government became aware of the hole's magical properties, prompting federal agents to seize his land and fund his relocation to Australia. Miami zombie cover-up. In a shocking true incident in 2012, a man high on bath salts attacked a homeless man on a Miami freeway and began eating his face. Police arrived and were forced to shoot the man several times to stop the attack. Some theorize that the man was a zombie, and the bath salts explanation was a cover-up of the true nature of the event. Miley Cyrus's death. Around 2012, a Las Vegas radio station reported that singer Miley Cyrus's body had been found in the desert. They later retracted the story. This was shortly before Cyrus changed her image from a family-friendly Disney pop star to a more sexualized starlet. This led to the theory that the news of her death was true, and that she was killed and replaced with a look-alike. Missing 411. Title of a series of books by author David Paulides documenting strange disappearances, mostly in national parks and other wilderness areas. Includes both people who disappeared permanently and those who were later found. While disappearances inside large wilderness areas may not seem unusual, the circumstances surrounding many of these disappearances are. For example, a small child being found improbably far away from the place they vanished from, seemingly having wandered across miles of rough terrain without suffering any ill effects. MK Ultra. CIA experiments on mind control conducted on unwitting US and Canadian citizens. Many documents were destroyed in the 1970s, so the full scope of the program will likely never be known. Techniques used in the program are known to have included sensory deprivation, drugs, and sexual abuse. Other nations rumored to have conducted MK-Ultra-style programs include Russia, China, and North Korea. Monkey torture. Extremely weird and disturbing subculture of people who comment on YouTube videos showing monkeys being hurt. They will often post about their enjoyment of seeing monkeys get hurt, and sometimes express desire to torture or kill monkeys. Often their most violent rhetoric is directed toward baby monkeys. If confronted about their comments, the vast majority of them will claim to have no desire to harm humans or any other animal except monkeys, and will often express disgust at people defending monkeys. Moon split in two, 1178. In 1178, 5 monks in England reported witnessing the moon split in two, complete with a shower of fire and sparks. The most common theory is that the men witnessed an asteroid or comet exploding in front of the moon, or witnessed a meteorite's impact with the moon's surface. Mothman at 9/11. Mothman is a large, winged creature sighted multiple times in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 1960s. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant collapsed, killing 46 people. Some people claimed to have sighted Mothman near the bridge before it collapsed, leading some to believe that Mothman caused the collapse and linking him to destructive events. There is a photograph of unknown origin, but has been online since the early 2000s, purporting to show Mothman in the vicinity of the collapsing World Trade Center towers on 9/11. North Korea Utopia. A theory that North Korea is the utopia it claims to be, and that all news stories and footage about the poor and oppressive living conditions there are propaganda. Nuclear weapons don't exist. Conspiracy theory that nuclear weapons aren't real, and all footage of their use and tests are fakes. The theory says that they were faked in order to prevent a third world war from ever happening, since major nations have them, and therefore two nations possessing such destructive weapons will never engage in direct war. Numbers stations. Radio stations of unknown origin that broadcast repeating tones, or a voice reading numbers, or sometimes sampled dialogue from movies and television, generally accepted to be used for spy communications. Oil pit squid. Story from the early 1990s that workers cleaning a sludge pit at a manufacturing facility found several squid-like creatures living in the toxic liquid. Supposedly, one was caught and stored in a jar, which later disappeared. As the story originally appeared in a supermarket tabloid, it is almost assuredly a hoax. O.J. covering for son refers to a theory that O.J. Simpson, believed by many to have gotten away with the murder of his ex-wife Nicole Simpson and her new lover Ron Goldman, was actually innocent, and his strange behavior following the murders was him covering up for his adult son from a previous marriage who was the actual murderer. According to the proponents of this theory, his son's whereabouts cannot be determined on the night of the murders. He had a violent temper and a supposedly unhealthy fixation on his former stepmother. Oklahoma City bombing leg. After the terrorist bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City on April 19, 1995, investigators faced the grisly task of sorting through body parts to identify victims. They found a human leg among the wreckage that cannot be matched to any of the 168 people known to have died in the explosion. Original Doll. Lost album by musician Britney Spears, made with minimal to no involvement of her agents and production crew. In an appearance for a radio station in 2004, Spears spoke about the album and indicated that it would be the start of a new independent career. She also played one of the album's songs, called Mona Lisa, which she described as an alter ego of herself. The song's lyrics and Spears' comments lend themselves to association with MK Ultra. This was also shortly before Spears' widely publicized emotional breakdown. Patterson-Gimlin Massacre. The Patterson-Gimlin film is the most famous piece of Bigfoot footage ever recorded. Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin shot film showing a bipedal ape-like creature walking through the woods in a remote part of California in 1967. The authenticity of the film continues to be debated to this day. A Bigfoot researcher, viewing photos of the Patterson-Gimlin expedition, claims to have determined that pools of blood are visible on the ground in some of the photos, and believes that the creature in the film is walking in a manner which indicates it was wounded. He believes that Patterson and Gimlin shot and killed a number of creatures that day and hid the evidence of it. Paul is dead. Claim that Beatles member Paul McCartney died in the 1960s and was replaced with a look-alike. Supposedly several clues in the Beatles' music and album art hint at this. Oddly, the facial recognition specialist who verified the identity of Italian dictator Mussolini in photos of his public lynching is a believer in this theory. Phantom cigarettes. People under the influence of the dissociative hallucinogenic plants datura and belladonna often report smoking imaginary cigarettes as a common hallucination. The exact cause of this is unknown, but it's interesting to note that datura, belladonna, and tobacco are all a part of the same plant family. Phantom kangaroos. Reported sightings of kangaroos in areas outside of their natural habitat. Sightings have been reported in the United States and Europe. Theories range from escaped exotic pets to hoaxes to sightings of a new unidentified species of animal. Philadelphia experiment refers to claimed experiments by the U.S. Navy involving invisibility and teleportation in the 1940s, the disastrous results of which left a sailor fused to the hull of a ship. Plant intelligence. Claim that plants possess consciousness. Gained some prominence in the 1960s when CIA interrogation specialist Cleve Baxter hooked up plants to a polygraph machine and claimed that they showed responses to his spoken words and even thoughts. Plastic surgery runaways. Hypothetical concept with a few explanations. One is that powerful people who need to disappear, such as Jeffrey Epstein, will have plastic surgery at black market clinics to radically alter their appearance so they can assume new identities. The other is that runaway or missing children will be given radical plastic surgery by their abductors at black market clinics as a way to prevent them from ever being identified. Pro-war Buddhism. Not so much a conspiracy theory as a fact. While Buddhism in the West is typically seen as advocating complete non-violence, many Buddhists in Asia believe warfare is permissible in certain circumstances, usually in self-defense. Quantum immortality. In the context of its use in icebergs, usually used to mean a concept that when someone dies, their consciousness merges into a universe or timeline where they are still alive. Second-hand smoke and health benefits of cigarettes. The first claim relates to the dangers of second-hand tobacco smoke, which many scientists outside of North America believe that the dangers of have been vastly overstated, which may have some merit. The second claim is that tobacco smoking is actually beneficial to human health, which has no merit. Cenomix. Not so much a conspiracy as just something creepy that most people are unaware of. Cenomix is a biotechnology company that develops food additives, for example, substances used to make foods taste sweeter or saltier. Many commercial snack foods contain Cenomix products. Cenomix develops their products in a process that involves the use of cells taken from an aborted human fetus. Skeleton on the moon. Apparent urban legend from around the time of the first moon landing, the claim being that Apollo astronauts found a human skeleton on the moon. Sometimes it is even said that it was wearing blue jeans. Sky trumpets. There are reports from all over the world of unusual sounds emanating out of a usually clear sky, often sounding similar to trumpets. Many examples of this phenomena can be found on YouTube. Stephen King killed John Lennon. One man's theory that horror author Stephen King was recruited by the CIA to kill musician John Lennon. He has been actively promoting this theory since the 1980s. Claims that King has left clues in his novels revealing the truth. Synchronicity. Essentially, synchronicity refers to a meaningful coincidence. The term was first coined by psychologist Carl Jung. I covered synchronicity in greater detail in my video, 10 of the most amazing coincidences ever. The televangelist bombers. In the early 1990s, 2 pipe bombs were mailed to televangelists, one of which nearly killed a security guard. Both bombs were mailed from a small town in North Carolina. Despite this information, and several composite sketches of the person who mailed the bombs being created, the crime has never been solved. Thomas Lynn Bradford, a scientist who committed suicide in 1921 in order to study the afterlife. Prior to his death, he had enlisted a spiritualist named Ruth Doran to serve as his conduit. According to Doran, Bradford reported that the afterlife was peaceful and everyone was happy. Thunderbird photo. A claimed photo from the 1800s showing several cowboys posing with a pterodactyl they had shot. Several photos can be found online, including many obvious fakes, but many claim that the original photo has been lost. Time cube. One man's theory that every day on Earth is actually 4 days occurring simultaneously. I covered this in more detail in my video 3 Bizarre Websites. Trepanning. Ancient medical practice done in several cultures where a hole is drilled into the skull, exposing the brain to air. Proponents claim it increases blood flow to the brain and can cure mental disorders like depression and provide a higher state of consciousness. Still occasionally practiced and promoted by fringe activists today. UFOs are atmospheric life forms. A theory that UFOs are not mechanical spacecraft piloted by aliens, but rather undiscovered species of animals inhabiting the stratosphere. This is not a new theory. Kenneth Arnold, the American pilot whose sighting of flying saucers over the Cascade Mountains in 1947 kicked off the modern UFO wave, felt that this was the most likely explanation for what he saw. Wow signal. Name given to a strong radio signal received by Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope on August 15, 1977. Originated from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. The WOW signal remains the strongest candidate for an alien radio transmission, and in some experts' opinions, the strongest possible evidence for extraterrestrial life. Unfortunately, repeated attempts to locate signals from the area in the time since have been unsuccessful. Y2K really happened. When it became the year 2000, there was speculation that computer systems would fail when rolling over from 1999 to 2000, leading to widespread technological failure and societal collapse. While this obviously didn't occur, there were some disturbing problems not commonly reported. In Japan, radiation monitoring equipment at a nuclear plant failed at midnight, and at another nuclear plant, warning alarms began sounding at 2 minutes past midnight. In the United Kingdom, incorrect risk assessments for Down syndrome caused by the Y2K bug resulted in at least 2 abortions. In Malaysia, there were reports of medical equipment like heart monitors failing. As there was little research done in assessing the full scope of damage caused by the Y2K bug, in a sense, Y2K did happen, just not at the scale that some predicted. YOGTZE. In 1984, unemployed German food scientist Günther Stoll was at home with his wife when he suddenly shouted, "Now I understand," and wrote the letters YOG''TZE on a piece of paper. A few hours later, he showed up at the home of a family friend and told her that something terrible was either going to happen that night or had already happened. A few hours after that, he was found injured and naked inside of his car, which had crashed off of a highway. He was barely conscious and was only able to tell his rescuers that he had been in the car with 3 other men who were not his friends. He died en route to the hospital. It was later determined that his injuries had been caused by being struck by a car. The crime has never been solved, and the meaning of YOGTZE has never been determined. I covered this case in greater detail in my video, 3 Unsolved Cases with Undeciphered Notes. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please take the time to leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos just like this one. To all my current subscribers, thanks for your continued support. Thanks again for watching.